Hi, my name is Wendy Rosenthal, and I am the Chief Pathfinder at Pathfinder One-to-One, a spiritual business coaching practice. Our focus at Pathfinder One-to-One is to help our clients meet their business objectives while having internal fulfillment through their work that they're doing, because we believe that spirituality is good for business. Just 2 seconds about myself. I have been a business and marketing strategy consultant for the last 20 years, working in over 22 countries on this beautiful planet. And I also have been on a spiritual path for the last 25 years, and I'm very, very excited to be here. And I thank Sandy, Ash, and the whole Women's Network event, this virtual event that we are here at today, for giving me the opportunity to share some concepts that I'm very, very passionate about. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something that you probably have heard of in many different ways, but maybe not the way I'm going to talk about it. Today I'm going to talk about the opponent. And why I say that you've heard about it in many other ways is because the opponent as a concept runs through many spiritual practices, many religions, literature, movies, and even music. So who am I talking about right now? Well, you may know the opponent as the devil, that little devil that sits on your shoulder, kind of whispering in your ear, Satan, that negative voice inside your head, that internal enemy. It runs through many different cultures, but I want to talk to you today about it because most of us think that the opponent is really negative, right? It's that voice that tells us we're not good enough. It's that voice that tells us to go do something that might be destructive for us. It's that voice that says, be sad, be angry, whatever that is. And I know that voice sounds really negative. I know those thoughts are really negative, but I am here today to change your mind and to dispel the myth about the opponent, because from what I have learned and experienced in my life, I know that when I can reframe the opponent and embrace what its real purpose is, then I can be the best me and you can be the best you in your life. You can elevate who you are and you can really bring out your soul's purpose, and that's why I'm here today. So before I dive into a very personal story that I want to share with you to kind of illustrate what the opponent is, I just wanted to take a moment to say, because I'm sure you're all sitting there going, okay, what is the opponent actually? So my understanding of the opponent, what I have internalized and used in my both spiritual practice and my business, is that the opponent is an opposing force that is there with us from the minute we're born. It's like, if you can imagine, we come out of the womb and it's standing in the delivery room with us, ready to go. And it's with us through our whole journey in this life, in this earthly plane. And it doesn't stop working until we leave. And it sounds kind of maybe ominous and like, oh my gosh, this is this horrible thing that's with us. But the fact of the matter is, it isn't. And that's why it's important for me to share with you that it's an opposing force. And what does that mean? It means it's going to oppose us, each individual person. My opponent is different than your opponent because the things I need, the workout that I need to have in order to pull out of myself my most amazing traits is so different from yours. So it isn't about right or wrong, or mine's better than yours, or mine's not as good as yours. All of our opponents are exactly suited for who we are, and that's what makes them incredibly clever. By the way, I'm here to tell you, your opponent knows you better than anybody, knows you better than yourself sometimes, and uses that in order to direct your attention and your focus to those things that it knows you need to work on. Mind-blowing, right? We spend a lot of time looking at the external world and saying, oh, this has happened outside. There's COVID right now. There's a million things, financial markets, inflation, can't find cars, supply chain. All of that is here right in front of us, right? And yeah, I'm not denying the external. The external is there and it needs to be dealt with. But here's the thing. The opponent focuses your attention of the external events that are happening around you on those things that you need to see and that are opportunities for you to overcome and grow. So yes, all those external things might be happening, but haven't you ever heard in business about those people who, when the market is crashing, they make billions of dollars? It's because their opponent is not, it's not their need to have their opponent have them look at a financial world in crisis. They need to do something different, right? So if we can take all of that out of what we're doing every day, how we see things, and we make the playing field a little bit more even, wouldn't you love to do that? So I want to share with you a personal story about myself and how the opponent played out in my life as an example so you can see what I'm talking about. I also want to say at this point, I am a huge sports fan, so oftentimes I like to look at the opponent as either my trainer in the gym or an opposing team I might be playing in a, let's say my favorite sport is football. So if you hear those little sports references, even if you're not a sports fan, I think you can understand. So when I was a little girl, I really never thought that I would want kids. From the time I was little, I was like, nope, I will never be a good mom. It's not my thing. There's so many reasons why, even from little, like I didn't have baby dolls. I didn't really care about them, but I loved people. And as I grew up, that thought in my head just became stronger and stronger. Very interesting, right? All of a sudden it was because I got migraine headaches, and how could I ever be a mom if I got a migraine headache on any day? Who was going to take care of my kids? Or later it became I got married, and while my ex-husband was amazing, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to have a kid with him. He's a little bit too this, or he might be a little that. Of course, my career got in the way. I became a career woman. I was working, constantly, traveling constantly, and then how would I have time for a kid? And everywhere I looked, I was presented with great reasons by my opponent why I shouldn't have a kid. And also, interestingly, I was presented with lots of opportunities to see how I am around kids. I love kids. I used to volunteer at day school. I used to babysit. I'm a big kid myself, and so I was like, kind of torn, and I realized I kept getting put in this position to see how good I am with kids, and people would say to me, Wendy, you are so amazing with kids. Why don't you have any yet? So this is a really great example of how the opponent knew me, right? Knew me, knew my one little thought that said I'm not going to be a good mom, and played it out for much of my life, but always put me in a position where people were asking me constantly, what's wrong? So I hit 40 and I decided that, you know what? I need to meet my opponent right now. I've been on a spiritual path for a while. I'm getting to that age where I don't have the choice as much anymore to wait. So I decided to introduce myself to this aspect of my opponent. And I literally looked in the mirror and I'm like, hey opponent, how are you? Like, I know you've been kind of trying to mess with me a little bit here. What is it that I don't want to be a mom for? Like, where did I get this idea? Why? Why are you doing this to me? Why? That right there, that calling out, that acknowledging that there is this force that was pushing me away from motherhood, almost instantaneously took its power away, because now it's out in the open. And it's kind of like in a sports analogy, how if a game is coming up, let's say, because I love football, the Sunday game is coming up, the week before, the coach is looking at the other team's films to see what those players are doing, how they're being coached, what's going on, so he can go into that Sunday having knowledge. Same exact thing. You gotta call it out, and the opponent is clever, and it won't always be easy, but the minute you say, I know that the opponent is at work, it loses half its power. So I started down that path, finding out, talking to spiritual teachers, talking to therapists, understanding what got into me that was so strong that I didn't want to have a child. Especially now I'm married to my second husband, and he would love to have kids with me. We go through that process, and in that process it was not easy. There were challenges. When I think I'd get a step forward and I got to a point where I decided, okay, I want to have a kid. Now I'm like 42, and it's like, oh my gosh, how is it going to happen? Then the medical stuff started coming in. Now those challenges seem, again, like they are external things or things that you can't control, but it's just the opponent. It's the opponent. You're in the gym right now, And you have to look at the opponent as it's a trainer who is adding another weight to your barbell, right? Okay, so now you're getting to be 42. Oh, you can't have a kid. And I'm having to sit there pushing against it going, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to really, if this is my path, I'm going to really do it. And that's like me lifting those weights. And every challenge, it just built my desire. It pushed me forward to see. It made me move aside all of the things that were stopping me, that the opponent had put there. But in that process, and with every challenge, and believe me, there were more than one, not just my age. I had a miscarriage that devastated me, and it really but it's like, no, I'm not going to do this. If I'm meant to be, and every time I had to remember, call out the opponent. What is the opponent saying to me right now? The opponent was saying, you can't have kids. And I was like, nope, I'm in the gym, put on another weight. Yes, I can. If it's meant to be, yes, I can. Yes, I can. So to finish this story, it was about 4.5 years after I started this process, with more challenges than we have time or you might have interest in listening to. But there was one final challenge where this is how clever the opponent is. Like, I had wiped away all of my fears about having a kid. I had wiped away everything. And all of a sudden, the opponent appeared in my life and put the thought in my head, maybe I'm just not supposed to be a mom. Now, can you imagine that? It almost makes me cry today. That was what was going on in my head. And thankfully, I knew about the opponent. I had called him out many times. Now, I'm not saying it took me a minute, but it took me a little bit of time, and I started to ask people. I wanted to call the opponent out. I said, hey, wait, this is the opponent. Let me go ask. Let me go see. Like, should I really be a mom? Is it really going to be okay? Like, is it really my lot in life? And every single person said to me, and I knew it was a message from my opponent, by the way, you just got to let go and let it happen. You've done the work. You have pushed the weights. Now go in and trust yourself. Like an athlete, when they're about ready to run the race, they have to let go. They have to know they've done everything they can do. Let go. And that was the message that I needed at that moment. And that was the last heavy weight that I really had to lift. And it was really interesting because when I did that and I said, okay, you know what? I see you, opponent. You're telling me I haven't done enough. I'm going to believe that I have, and thank you for that. And I kid you not, no lie, you can ask all my friends and family. 2 weeks later, I got pregnant. It always makes me cry, with my fabulous son, who is 10 years old now. I didn't think I'd get this emotional. But this is why I want you to embrace the opponent. If I had not called him out, if I had not realized and reframed what his job was or her job is to me, I would have spent my life saying I couldn't be a mom. And I almost barely made it in, by the way. And I want you to know that I had no IVF. This was pure natural. At 46 years old, I delivered my son. And so can you imagine if I had bought into the idea that the opponent is negative, that it's that little voice? If I had sat there and not called him out, I wouldn't be here today, a mom, a proud mom, a flawed mom, who, by the way, makes tons of mistakes. But you know what? I'm a mom who is loving and caring and raising a great kid. So I wanted to use that example to share with you how the opponent can work in your life. I want to leave you with 2 or 3 thoughts to remind you. 1, your opponent is there no matter what. And the opponent is not the challenge that is the external world. It is the way that you choose to see those challenges. That's where the opponent steps in. Okay? So if you can use those external challenges and understand that when you are reactive to them, or you're feeling down, or you're feeling overwhelmed, that is your opponent at play, that's step 1. The second step is call them out. Call them out. Say, hi, opponent. Go look in the mirror or talk to them. Hey, I see you. I know you're here. You don't have the power over me that you think you do. And then the third step is to reframe it. Remember, you are in a gym. You are in the gym of life. You are in the game of life. And you can use your opponent to help push you and elevate you to that place that you are really meant to be. Places, let's say not one place, by the way. We are multifaceted and we have lots of things to do in this world. And I know everybody who signed up for this retreat has even more to do in the world, because you're conscious of the fact that you want to do more. So by the way, little hint, your opponent might show up a lot more because you're sitting in this room today. But now you have a tool. Call him out, welcome and embrace him, recognize that it is there for your benefit to push you to have the desire to be the best you can be, and go ahead and take steps to do that. I really appreciate your time. I hope that the rest of this retreat is amazing for you. You can find me at www.pathfinder1to1.com, and thank you again for your time.